Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Alyssa and today I'm actually going to be doing a meal slash food prep for my fridge and freezer for my family. It's actually my first video doing a food video, so I'm super excited to be sharing this with you. I have a ton of items that I want to get done today and prepped and ready to go, so I thought it would be fun to film it. So if you're new here, I would love it if you would stick around, join my YouTube family, subscribe down below, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up if this is a video that interests you, so I know to do more of these videos in the future. All right, so with all that said, let's get going into the video. So the first item I'm going to be making is banana bread. I actually got this recipe off of food.com. I've made others that weren't really my favorite, so I thought I'd try something new. I thought this recipe turned out really great, so if you want to give it a try, I'll make sure to link it down below. So what I'm just doing is starting off mixing a half a cup of softened butter with 1 cup of sugar, and then in a separate bowl, I've mashed up 3 ripe bananas. I'm going to add that into my sugar and butter mixture and then add in 2 eggs as well. So the recipe calls for sifting the dry ingredients before adding it into the wet ingredients, and I just skipped the whole sifting step and just put it directly into the wet ingredients. I didn't want to dirty more dishes that I found to be unnecessary. So I did 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1.5 cups of flour, a pinch of salt, and a splash of vanilla, then added into the wet ingredients. And then I also added in chocolate chips because we love chocolate in our banana bread. So here I'm just pouring the mixture into a well-greased loaf pan, and then I actually topped it with a few more extra chocolate chips because why not? And then I popped it in a 350-degree oven. The recipe says for 55 minutes. I'm not sure if it's my oven, but when I checked the center with the toothpick, it was still pretty gooey. So I added on an extra 5 to 8 minutes. And after that, it came out exactly the way I wanted it to. So after the banana bread was done baking, I took it out of the oven, I let it cool completely, and then I cut it up into thin strips and popped them all into a large Ziploc bag and put it in my freezer. And then actually the next day, my daughter wanted one, so I took one out of the freezer, popped it in the microwave for about 30 seconds at 50% power, and it was perfect. So the next item I'm going to be making is the sheet pan pancake, but first I needed to prep all of the berries because I was going to slice up some strawberries to put onto the top of the sheet pan pancake, and then also I needed some extra berries like blueberries that I needed to wash as well. I just went to Sam's Club, so I had a bunch of these that I needed to clean up, so that's what I'm doing here. So now that I prepped all of my berries, I'm starting on my sheet pan pancake. So I'm just getting all of my ingredients ready. I added 3 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons of baking soda, 2 tablespoons of sugar. I actually added in a little bit more because we wanted it a little bit sweeter, a pinch of salt, and then I whisked together 2 eggs with 2.5 cups of milk and 8 tablespoons of melted butter. And then I combined those 2 bowls, as you can see. So here I'm just prepping the sheet pan. I did a half-sized baking sheet. I sprayed it down really well with some olive oil spray just to make sure that this thing comes out of it after it bakes. And then I just poured the bowl mixture into it and I'm smoothing it out, and I'm gonna top it with our favorite berries. I just put strawberries and blueberries, and I also added on some chocolate chips as well. I think next time if I do this, I might add on bananas too, because I think that sounds really good. So once I was done putting the berries on top, I popped this in the oven at 425 degrees. The recipe said for 15 minutes, and again, just like the banana bread, I found that I needed to bake it just a little bit longer, so I popped it in for another 5 or so minutes, and then it came out just right. So this was my first time making this recipe, and I'll link it down below if you want to give it a try. But personally, I don't know if I would make this particular one again. I just found it puffed up quite a bit, and the flavor was a little off, so maybe I'll try a different one in the future. So here I'm making a frozen yogurt bark. This is my first time making this recipe, and I actually really liked it. My daughter did as well. I just had some yogurt on hand I wanted to use up before it went bad, so I thought this would be something good to try out. So I did 2 cups of yogurt with about 2 tablespoons or so of honey, mixed that together. I threw in a handful of cranberries and then topped it with some raspberries, blueberries, and chocolate chips, and then drizzled it with honey. Put it in the freezer for about 2 to 3 hours, broke it up, and put it in a Ziploc bag and popped it back in the freezer. And my daughter actually really loved this. Thank you. You want to try your yogurt bark? Is it good?
Yes.
Yummy.
Yummy strawberry.
Yummy. Oh, those are raspberries. Thank you.
Chocolate.
Was it a chocolate chip?
You don't have. Don't give it to you.
Mommy do a good job?
Mm-hmm.
What do you say?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So next I'm making egg muffin cups. I've made these before, not this particular recipe. I did like this recipe, so it'll be linked down below for you. I like to keep these on hand for a healthy option in the freezer for myself, and even my daughter and my husband like them. So I decided to put in tomatoes, mushrooms, ham, and spinach, and then I topped it all with cheese once they were in the muffin tins. So here I'm just prepping the eggs. I'm getting 6 large eggs into a bowl, and then I'm going to whisk them up. I decided to put sour cream and milk into the mixture. This isn't on the recipe. I just like putting this into my scrambled eggs, so I thought it would be good adding this into the muffin cups. I just did a couple spoonfuls of sour cream and a couple splashes of milk, and it gives it a nice creamy flavor and texture, and it's really good. This also wasn't on the recipe, but I decided to add in a couple seasonings. I put in onion powder, garlic powder, Himalaya salt, and some pepper. So here I'm just prepping the muffin cups before I pour in the egg mixture. I'm just putting in the items I cut up, the tomatoes, mushrooms, spinach, and ham. And then I'm just pouring in the egg mixture on top of those items, and then I topped on some cheddar cheese before I put them in the oven. So I just put these in a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes or until they're no longer runny. And then I took them out, and once they were fully cooled off, I popped them in a large Ziploc bag and put in the freezer. And I actually had one this morning, so I just took it out of the freezer, put it on a plate, and I popped it in the microwave for about 35 to 45 seconds. And then I turned it over and put it in for another 30 seconds. And I actually ate it with some guacamole, and it was really good. So the last thing I made for the day was roasted red pepper hummus. So what I just did was, the recipe shows you how to roast your own red peppers and then add that into the mixture. I actually just got a jar of roasted red peppers from the store, and then a can of chickpeas, some lemon juice, tahini, some garlic, olive oil, and some cumin for seasoning if you'd like, and then salt and pepper. So here I'm just adding in the tahini, the lemon juice, and the garlic, and I'm pulsing that a few times. And then here you can't really see it because it kind of got cut off, but I'm adding in about 3 or so tablespoons of cold water just to get it to the right consistency. I wanted it to be nice and creamy. And now I'm just adding in some of the roasted red peppers. I'm just eyeballing it here, and then I added in my chickpeas that I had cooking, and then I'm gonna pour in some olive oil while this is pulsing, and then adding in some of my seasoning. So it's really creamy after it's done, but once you pop it in the refrigerator, it does harden up quite a bit. So you want to make sure you add in enough cold water or olive oil to get it to a nice creamy, light consistency. So once it hardens up, it's not completely stiff. There's my husband's hand sneaking in a taste. I really enjoy this recipe. I've made it a few different times, and my family and I all love it, and it's always my go-to for hummus. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.